Imagine a world where the sea was your highway, where mastery of the waters meant power, wealth, and influence. This was the world of the Phoenicians, an ancient civilization that built its empire on trade, seafaring, and innovation. Welcome to Infinitia Verity, where we explore the untold stories of the ancient world. Today we are setting sail to explore how the Phoenicians became masters of the seas, establishing one of the most influential trading empires of the ancient world. Fact 1. The Phoenicians were among the first to use ships powered by both sails and oars, allowing them to travel vast distances regardless of wind conditions. Fact 2. Phoenicia was not a unified kingdom. It consisted of independent city-states like Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos, each ruled by its own king but sharing a common culture and language. It all began over 3,000 years ago in what we know today as Lebanon, Syria, and northern Israel. The Phoenicians, though not a unified empire, were a network of independent city-states with key cities like Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos. These cities were crucial hubs in the ancient Mediterranean world, dating back to around 1550 BC. Byblos, for example, was a city famed for its trade in papyrus, and it's from here that we get the word Bible. The Phoenicians made a name for themselves exporting cedar wood, a highly prized commodity, especially by the Egyptians, who used it for shipbuilding and temples. In return, the Phoenicians imported precious metals, spices, and textiles. Fact 1. Byblos is one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world. Fact 2. The famous cedar wood of Lebanon, which was traded by the Phoenicians, was used by the Egyptians to build temples and by King Solomon for the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem. What set the Phoenicians apart, though, was their unparalleled mastery of the sea. Around 1200 BC, the Phoenicians developed new shipbuilding techniques, creating vessels with a central keel for greater stability on open waters. These advancements allowed them to travel longer distances and withstand storms that would have wrecked lesser ships. One of the Phoenicians' greatest achievements was their ability to navigate the seas by the stars, long before GPS or even maps as we know them today. This skill enabled them to journey beyond the Mediterranean and into the Atlantic, where they may have reached the Canary Islands and possibly even circumnavigated Africa centuries before Europeans like Vasco da Gama. Fact 1. The Phoenicians were believed to be the first to circumnavigate Africa. According to Herodotus, a Phoenician fleet sent by Egyptian pharaoh Necho II completed the journey in 600 BC. Fact 2. The Phoenicians pioneered the use of the North Star for navigation, which allowed them to venture into open waters beyond the sight of land. As the Phoenicians' seafaring abilities grew, so did their influence across the Mediterranean. From North Africa to Spain, and as far west as Morocco, the Phoenicians founded trading colonies. One of their most famous colonies, Carthage, established around 814 BC, would later become a major power in its own right. These colonies were not mere outposts, but bustling centers of trade. They exchanged goods such as olive oil, wine, precious metals, and exotic animals with the wider Mediterranean world. In fact, the Phoenicians were so influential that at the height of their power, their trade routes spanned from Egypt to Spain and from Cyprus to Sicily. The founding of Carthage is surrounded by legend. According to myth, Queen Dido fled her homeland of Tyre after her brother murdered her husband. She escaped to North Africa, where she founded the city of Carthage. This tale is immortalized in Virgil's Aeneid and showcases the legendary origins of this great city. Fact 1. Carthage, founded by Phoenicians from Tyre, became one of the most powerful cities in the ancient Mediterranean and eventually challenged Rome in the Punic Wars. Fact 2. Phoenician colonies were strategically located along trade routes, including places like Malta, Sicily, and the Balearic Islands, which helped them control Mediterranean commerce. Among the Phoenicians' most coveted trade goods was the famous Tyrian purple dye. This rare and expensive dye was made from the murex snail, and thousands of snails were needed to create even a small amount. The dye's deep purple color became a symbol of royalty and prestige, so much so that only emperors, kings, and the elite could afford to wear it. Interestingly, Roman emperors even passed laws restricting the use of Tyrian purple to imperial clothing alone. It was considered a sign of supreme power, further elevating the status of Phoenician traders who produced and sold this luxury item. Tyrian purple dye was so valuable that at its height, 1 pound of the dye cost more than its weight in gold. This luxurious color became synonymous with royalty and power in both ancient Rome and Byzantium. The production of Tyrian purple was labor-intensive. Around 250,000 murex snails were needed to produce just 1 ounce of dye. One of the Phoenicians' most lasting legacies was their revolutionary alphabet, which they developed around 1050 BC. Unlike previous writing systems that used complex symbols to represent entire words or ideas, the Phoenician alphabet was phonetic, meaning each symbol represented a sound. This made writing simpler and more accessible to a broader population. This alphabet laid the foundation for the Greek and Latin alphabets and ultimately the modern alphabets we use today. In fact, the word alphabet comes from the first 2 letters of the Phoenician alphabet, Aleph and Beth. The Phoenician alphabet contained 22 letters and was entirely consonantal. It influenced many later writing systems, including Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, and Latin. The alphabet was widely adopted because of its simplicity, which made it easier for traders and common people to learn and use compared to more complex writing systems like cuneiform or hieroglyphics. The Phoenicians were not just traders, they were cultural bridges. Their trading networks connected Egypt, Mesopotamia, Greece, and even distant lands such as Spain and Britain. They traded not only goods but also ideas, spreading cultural and technological innovations across the Mediterranean. For example, the Phoenicians introduced the art of glassmaking to Europe. They also spread knowledge of metallurgy, shipbuilding techniques, and agricultural practices to distant shores. Through trade, they facilitated the spread of art, religion, and technology, influencing the cultures of ancient Greece, Rome, and beyond. The Phoenicians were the first known people to import and use tin from Britain to mix with copper and produce bronze, crucial for tools and weapons during the Bronze Age. Phoenician traders also dealt in luxury items such as ivory, amber, and rare spices, which they exchanged across a vast network stretching from the British Isles to India. Despite their maritime prowess, the Phoenicians were not immune to external threats. Starting in the 9th century BC, they faced increasing pressure from powerful neighbors like the Assyrian Empire. In 701 BC, the Assyrian king Sennacherib launched a brutal siege on Tyre. Although Tyre withstood the siege, it marked the beginning of a long period of instability. Even though the Assyrians demanded heavy tribute from the Phoenician cities, the Phoenicians managed to maintain their trade networks. Their wealth and strategic coastal cities made them valuable allies and subjects of larger empires. Fact 1. Tyre's formidable defenses during the Assyrian siege of 701 BC were due in part to its location. The city was built on an island about half a mile off the coast, making it extremely difficult for attackers to breach. Fact 2. Even though Tyre faced repeated sieges from the Assyrians and later from Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, it maintained its status as a major trading hub until its final conquest by Alexander the Great. Chapter 9. Phoenician Resilience under Persian Rule. When the Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great conquered the region in 539 BC, the Phoenicians became crucial allies. The Persians relied heavily on Phoenician ships and sailors for their naval campaigns, particularly in their wars against Greece. Despite being under foreign rule, the Phoenicians continued to dominate Mediterranean trade. Their cities flourished as vital centers of commerce, and their ships remained essential to Persian military and economic power. Fact 1. Under Persian rule, the Phoenician fleet was integral to the Persian navy, playing a crucial role in the Battle of Salamis in 480 BC against the Greeks during the Greco-Persian Wars. Fact 2. Despite being under Persian rule, the Phoenicians retained a high degree of autonomy and continued to thrive economically, controlling key trade routes in the Mediterranean. Chapter 10. The Fall of Phoenician Independence. However, the rise of new empires would eventually bring an end to Phoenician independence. In 332 BC, Alexander the Great set his sights on the city of Tyre during his campaign to conquer the Persian Empire. The siege of Tyre lasted 7 months and was one of Alexander's most challenging military endeavors. He eventually succeeded by building a causeway to the island city, which forever changed the geography of Tyre. After the fall of Tyre, Phoenician cities came under the control of various empires, including the Greeks and Romans. Although Phoenicia's influence as an independent power waned, their contributions to seafaring, trade, and writing left an indelible mark on history. Fact 1. The Siege of Tyre. In 332 BC was one of the most remarkable engineering feats of Alexander the Great's career. To conquer the island city, his army built a causeway, turning Tyre into a peninsula. Fact 2. After the fall of Tyre, the Phoenician city-states became part of the Hellenistic world, losing their independence but continuing to influence Mediterranean culture and trade. Chapter 11. The Legacy of the Phoenicians. Though the Phoenicians are no longer with us, their legacy lives on in many aspects of modern life. Their alphabet paved the way for the written languages we use today. Their mastery of seafaring and navigation set the stage for the age of exploration centuries later. Even their famous Tyrian purple dye has become a symbol of prestige, still evoking images of ancient emperors. The Phoenicians' ability to thrive through trade, exploration, and innovation is a testament to their resilience and ingenuity. They were truly masters of the seas, and their influence can still be felt in the world today. Fact 1. Phoenician glass-making techniques were among the most advanced of the ancient world, with some evidence suggesting they were the first to develop transparent glass. Fact 2. The Phoenician word for trader, kanani, evolved into the Hebrew word for merchant, showing the long-lasting influence of Phoenician trade even in linguistic terms. Chapter 12. Conclusion. If you enjoyed this journey through the fascinating world of the Phoenicians, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more amazing stories from history. This is Infinitia Verity, where we unlock the secrets of the past.